What's up, everybody? Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on Space Engineers Programming 101. When we left off in the last episode, we had done our rotor, not rotor, well, kind of rotor, reactor rotation script, which was kind of simple and quick. I want to do something a bit more complicated this time, and that's actually getting into, I would like to start writing my own operating system. And that sounds kind of like large scale, but I'm not really talking about like, I want Windows to run in Space Engineers. No, I'm just talking about like a system that would allow me to control my ship in my survival series that I'm currently still, building. But when it's done, I'd like one solid script to be able to just run various different things. And I really got sold on that one, I forget the name of the ship, but I got sold on that one ship in the Inspiration series that you could basically go up and down through the menu system and all that kind of stuff. So this is definitely going to be a multi-part script. It's not going to be done in one episode, but I'm hoping to knock out a decent amount of the fluff, I guess, if you will. So you'll notice that this is still kind of set up from our last script, but that's okay. We're just going to clear most of it. And we'll leave that. We'll cut this out. I'm going to leave the display thing because I'm probably going to at least want something to display for now. One other thing, or startup. Why do I keep like spinning back up here? There we go. So one other thing is in the last script that I did, we had a lot of lag when it got done. When it would run, it would slow everything down. I actually got a comment about that, and it was a really good idea, and it was the fact that you're basically running the startup every time the thing loops through here, right? So it's having to go through and loop through all of this different crap and reassign it every single frame. So it caused a lot of lag. So what I'm going to do this time is add a Boolean value called first run and set it to true for now. And then in the instantiate section, where we're first starting up, we're going to pose an if statement that says if first run, which is if first run is equal to true, then run startup. Otherwise, we're not going to run startup because it's already been instantiated. And then the only other part to the puzzle is at the end of startup, we're just going to set first run to equal to false. And basically, it'll run through and set everything up. And then it will disable first run, so then the next time the code runs, because with global variables, this is very important if you're going to use anything outside of the main function. If you declare a global variable with the way the scripting system is set up in Space Engineers, it will default to whatever your first value is in the global variable up here. In this section, if you declare it. But while the game is running, while the save file, the world, is up and running, if you change it in the main code or in another function, it will stay changed because that's the nature of a global variable. However, when you close the game and boot it back up and you go back into your save file, it's the first time it's going to run, it's going to start this as you declared it up here in the global again. So you have to be very particular about how you want it to start off and then go from there. So for example, a first run command will always be true right when the game boots up. But once the script has run once, then first run is equal to false because startup has run already. You don't need to loop through it every time. You've already got your blocks. So that's very important. And I'm going to cut most of this out, actually, because we really don't need it anymore. And I'm still working on, I want to do something a little different with this one because it's kind of an OS. I don't want to have to declare a bunch of little variables. So I want to try and work with this a little bit differently. we're going to see how well this is actually going to work. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to need a list of all of the blocks for the code to be able to access anything and everything, right? That's kind of a given. It's got to be that way. So we're going to do a list of terminal blocks and we're just going to call it blocks. And we'll set it to new list. And close that. And you know what? Sorry. Yeah, it's fine. Remember. I just realized I've got the music going again. Sorry, that's kind of annoying. Okay. Much better. So this is going to give us all the blocks. Now, in startup, what we need to do is say grid terminal system get blocks of type, I think is the command. I always get it mixed up with, I think it's get blocks of type or get block with name, I think are the two main commands. And of type needs to be in a template of terminal block, and then we're going to put it in the blocks list. So that will basically fill in blocks with every single interactable block, basically, on the grid. Which, of course, as we all know, the grid is basically the ship or station or whatever. Now, the part where this gets kind of finicky is how to declare variables. Because if you do this once, but then in your main code you're doing something like my text panel main display equals I think you can do this as I haven't actually tried to declare things based off of blocks before. This is going to be a little bit weird. Let's see if it's got the same block with name function. I don't think it does, but it might if we're lucky. Oh, and then we'll do an as my text panel. Okay, generic list does not contain a definition of get block with name. Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Because I've seen a way that once you fill in the block's value of basically using it to declare things. Anyways, my point to this is, even if this were to work, you're kind of defeating the purpose, because you've got this here to load all of the blocks into the blocks variable, but then you're ending up reinstantiating everything here again. It's not really that effective. So what I'm going to have to do is anything that is actually going to be throughout the entire code, we're going to have to put as a global variable, I think. Come on. Thank you. We're going to get rid of this. We're also going to get rid of this, but we're going to move it down here. And hold on just a minute. I have to look up and find out, because declaring it into blocks doesn't really do a whole lot at the moment. We're still going to end up needing that eventually, but I'd like to see if there's a way to declare from that. So give me just a second. Alright, so as it turns out, I was kind of making a bit more work for myself, so we're going to scrap this up here, because I was kind of repeating a step. It's really not necessary to go through and add them all to blocks, mostly because you can just do the grid terminal system get blocks of type and find all the blocks that you want. Now, you will have to make a new list. So actually it might be beneficial to have it this way. Never mind. What we're going to do though is we are going to change this, that this part will stay the same, but instead of doing this, There's an easier way to do this. What we're going to do is say blocks equals grid terminal system dot blocks. And oops, name display does not exist. Type namespace. How many terminal blocks cannot be found? Are you using missing? Oh wait, it's not blocks. This isn't plural. Okay, so that's the only problem is display. That's fine. So now we'll declare my text panel, and we'll call this main display because we're going to have more than one display. So that's important. All of our displays. See, this is what I wanted to do. I like to make all of my codes to where they're usable by people. And like it won't work in specific instances. I like them to work in every instance. So that's going to cause us to have a lot of functions in this system, and I'm actually going to remove this. Maybe. Yeah, I'm going to remove it. And we're going to have to work with it a little differently because I don't want to have everybody declare specific little things. So what we're going to do is we'll have startup, which is this one, which at the moment doesn't really do a whole lot. It's probably going to call multiple other functions. So for example, let's start off with display setup. Or no, we'll say everything with setup, and then it'll be the secondary one will be its context, and that way it'll be easier to figure it out. At the moment, we might not be making a whole lot of use of this. This will come in later, because at the moment we can get away with just doing the grid terminal system search by things, but I don't know. We might end up scrapping this. It'll just depend on what we need to do. It may not end up being necessary. So to set up the displays, what we need to look for is, say, oh, and we're going to need another system too called update display. That should probably be plural. There we go. And we'll move all this code around as it's necessary. But first things first. So we're going to do, let's say, my text panel main display equals grid terminal system get. Let's see. How do I want to do this? Let's say get block with name as my text panel. See, this is where it gets a little tricky, is that I don't really like having to hard code names. Because then people have to name them exactly what it has to be at. So what we can do is we could use blocks, because we did something similar to that with the reactor rotation code, where it looked through and found specific things. Let me take a look at that code, and I'll be back in a second, because we're going to need to use something similar here. Okay, so we have a pretty good sign here by by that on the screen. So what I did was I changed some of this around, commented out some things, or not commented out, but just commented some things to better clearly state what's going on and some of the global variables. I did decide ultimately you're going to need certain things for the OS to run. like a display, for example. So I went ahead and made it a global variable anyway, just in case. And we've set it to startup, update displays is the currently main code, startup calls setup displays, and setup displays will do all this stuff, and then update does this. So it's actually working pretty well right now. It's all being compartmentalized, and it's all well and good. So what I did here is we've got a loop that basically loops through the blocks, and it says it blocks at I, whatever the current index is, block definition to string if it contains text, basically saying is it a text panel. And if it's a text panel, then if block contains custom name that has main in it, then main display equals the current block as I my text panel. There are some holes with this as far as you could have main refinery panel, main whatever. I'm operating under the assumption that you would have a main display. Like I currently have mine named as LCD main display, and that's it. And then if you wanted to do, you know, we could do this a couple different ways. You could make a block group like OS displays, to where those are the only displays that are supposed to run the operating system, so on and so forth. There's a few different ways you could do it. So let's do, so for now, the text panel is set up to do some stuff. Now, we also have a global variables here so that we can interact with them without having to pass them through to each function. We can switch that around as we play around with this and find out what the most optimum, because my goal here is to make this as easy to set up as possible. Like all the work's on me to code it properly so that when, you know, someone else downloads the operating system, it's like boom, here, bang, 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 we're done. So it may be easier to set it up in a group, and we might work on that eventually as the functionality gets bigger and badder, kind of thing. Alright, so the next step that I want to work on is control functions. So let's make a new function called write main menu. And this part, I'm not going to worry about the editing side too much as far as how it looks at the moment. I can do that, you know, at my own leisure, but at the moment I'm looking for functionality. So what we need, let's see, how do we want to do this? First of all, let's just get some stuff on the screen. So we're going to do main display write public text. And you know what? I might actually just cut this line from here, because what we're going to end up doing is calling this, and we'll put this as false. Yeah, because we want to not append anything. So that's the first line. You can see I'm not planning on this being very functional right now at version 001 or 0.1. Gosh, I can't even talk. So from here, what we can do is say write main menu. So you can start to see how it becomes very compartmentalized. And we can actually move this here. And that way, as we can write main menu, we can write refinery menu, blah, 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 and it will keep calling different codes for different things, basically. Okay, so actually, I don't know why I did that. We're going to be up here, not, these are going to be the last two lines, not the first. Okay, so we have the main thing up here. This is going to kind of be the general consensus, so let's just go ahead and grab that. First off, we're gonna do, let's do it up here. Actually, we'll do new line, and that should give us 2 spaces to work with. So let's do, and I'll have to work with it. I'm sure there's a way to calculate percentage of the screen size and all that crap. I haven't really looked into some of the functions of text panels. But I'm sure there's a way to calculate all that crap and make it like auto format depending on what kind of display you're using. Okay, so the first thing we want to set up is, let's say inventory management, maybe? Or, not management, inventory information? Summary? Inventory summary, there we go, that's what we need. And so you can kind of tell that this is going to end up kind of conglomerating all of the various different codes that we've talked about doing. As far as, you know... Actually, you know what? I can make this really easy on myself. Let's just declare a new string value and say it's equal, or string menu options. Maybe. Ooh, what if we did this? I'm debating, because I was thinking if I did a string list, then I could just add brackets to the beginning and end of each list element. But we can probably do that anyway. So let's just play around with it a little bit. Let's just start this way for now, and we'll see where it goes. Menu options. We don't have to make it equal 0, actually. We'll do inventory summary, new line, and then let's see, what's another one? I don't have all the functionality planned out. Let's just, you know, set this up. Refinery status, maybe. Status. Power status. And I don't know. What else do we need? That should be good for now. We'll just try that. And close that. Then from here, main display, right, public text, and we'll just put menu options false. Oh, and since I put a space here, let's go ahead and put a space on all of these so that they'll be properly aligned. So theoretically, we're not really doing a whole lot with the menu functionality yet. Oh. What happened? It overwrote the title bar. Oh, because I put this as false. Duh. True. And let's go ahead, based on how I'm seeing that, and give it a couple spaces. So obviously there's no functionality yet, we're just writing the options. But it's getting there. It's looking kind of cute. Alright, so now we've got some options. Now we need to set up some other things. So there's a couple other blocks that we need that we're going to need no matter what. And that is, I'm going to call this selection lights. These are not lights you will see, or blocks. We'll call it blocks. These aren't blocks you'll see. They are blocks that we're going to use to basically run a keyboard system like they did in that other one. I still can't wrap my head around anything better than lights, though. You could use timer blocks. I'm pretty sure that's what they did in the example that we saw, but it's just interior lights are a single construction component. I just can't get any different. Can't wrap my head around it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go one. I still have my controller plugged in. 2, 3, 4. We're going to need 4 buttons, I think. And it's basically going to be up, down, accept, and back. And back is going to be like if we have a sub-menu type system eventually. So what I'm going to do is change these to, let's say, up is... It doesn't really matter. Actually, it really doesn't matter at all. The names matter more importantly. So let's say up light. Or I don't really think I even need light in there. Let's do OS up. There we go. We'll do OS down. OS back and accept. Or select. Now, I do think I'm going to make do you think I'm going to make a group? And we're going to call this OS. And just to make sure I can manipulate... Oh, these don't matter. Okay. And let's do its own group. And the reason I make this its own group, I might have not mentioned it before, is so that it's always up here at the top and I can easily access it. So, what's going to happen here? You know, truth be told, we don't really need blocks. Now that I'm kind of looking at it, all we need to do is say... how did I do this before? It's if grid terminal system dot block group. Oh, I remember. Okay, I remember. It was a loop in a loop, I think. Let me double check it and I'll be back in a second. Alrighty, so good news, bad news. Bad news is it's not entirely functioning the way it's supposed to, sort of. Good news is it's getting there. So what I've got so far is you can see what's going on where there's little brackets along the selected thing. So let me go through and explain what I've done and what's not working. Now, there is one other change I want to make real quick before I go in detail, and that is our menu options. I want to actually make that a global variable so that other systems can have access to it. And then this is basically just going to populate menu options. So, and I can get rid of this because it was not working. Whoops, a little carried away there. And let's see, I don't need any of this anymore. This is more like debugging code kind of thing. This I'll leave in here just to make sure things are working, I guess. I don't need this part. Actually, I don't really need the selected menu, but we'll leave it. No, I won't, actually. Let's get rid of it. Alright. So here's what's going on. I don't actually remember what I left off on. I was kind of going crazy with this. So we have setup displays that we did. I also made setup controls. Okay. Oh, that's what I was going to actually explain this, and I never did it, did I? So we've converted this back to something similar to the reactor rotation code, where we're going to loop through the grid terminal system block groups, and then determine at each group if the name is equal to OS, that's the group we want. Then we're going to loop through the block groups, or the blocks at this group index, and go by the count value of those blocks. Then we're going to check if each individual block definition, toString contains whatever, which is text. Then we set up if the custom name of that block contains main, this is the main screen. We do the exact same thing up here with the lights. The difference is we have contains light, and then contains up, down, back, and select, and then we have it set up to up, down, back, select as my interior lights. So that basically sets up the controls. So startup now has setup controls, setup display, or displays, and then first run equals false. That could be part of the problem, actually. I'm not sure. That could be part of the issue. No, because everything's working. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. So I've got the my interior lights up, down, back, select. Main display, selected menu item equals 0 by default. That may be the problem, is that it never gets reinstantiated? I don't know. Anyways, we'll work with it. Main code is set up for update selection and update displays now. Update displays looks a little bit different because now menu options is no longer a single string, but it is a list of string values. We've set it up to add instead of going by index. So menu options.add, and then we add a very simple, like, strip down, this is just the option name type of thing we're going to add to it later. So we have inventory summary, refinery status, power status. Then menu options at selected menu item equals, and we basically just add a bracket to menu options selected menu item, if that makes sense. So whatever selected menu item equals is going to be the index for one of these options, and then it's just going to add the bracket to n fro. Then we write the public text, which this line clears anything else. We loop through the menu options and write each one, giving them a little bit of a space, and then converting it to a string and making a new line. So that's the new write menu function, or write main menu. Now we get to the update selection. This is where things kind of work, kind of don't. And I also need to change a couple of things in here. For example, these probably shouldn't be else clauses. These two it's fine because you either go up or down. So if up is working, aka you push the button and the light comes on. If selected menu item is greater than 0, selected menu item deprecates. Or, not decrements, sorry. Which is basically reducing it by 1. And it's a double minus sign. Else, if selected menu item equals 0, you're at the end item. So now loop back to option 2. The reason this is bad at the moment because it's hard-coded. Now, what we actually can do here now is say menu options.count. There we go. That'll be better. Same here. .count, and same here. There we go. So what this is going to do is basically say if you're at the last menu... Whoops. Oh yeah, no, that works. So it's if you're greater than 0, you move down by 1. If you're at 0, which is the last item, then set it to equal the last option. So it basically loops back around to the bottom. Then it turns off the light. Otherwise, if down is on, if the selected item is less than the maximum amount, then you increment, which is adding 1. If it's equal to the last item, then we set it to 0, which loops it back around, turns the light off. Now at the moment, we don't have a back or select option implemented. So all I did was hit main display write private text, went back, and then true, so it appends, and then turns the backlight off. Select says made a selection, true, turns the light off. that's really all there is to it so far. Now, the only really weird thing... Wait a minute, what is this? The name menu options does not exist in the current context. What did I do? Oh, I capitalized it. Context is important. Okay. So the only problem here... Whoa. Well, that's new. Okay, wow. Woo. Look at that frame rate. I boo-booed on something. Wow, I can't even get this thing to, like, open. Alright, what did I do here? I screwed something up. Update displays. Menu options dot count. No, all that should be fine. I don't know what I did. I broke something. Oh, I moved that up to a global. Oh, that's what I did. That's what I did. Okay. Okay. Alright, let's see if I can actually get this to close for a second here. Timer block. I need a timer block. Because it's currently running the code. Or telling it to run repeatedly. Alright. Whew. There we go. Alright, so what happens here is I created a global variable, which never gets not overwritten, but erased. So now, every time right main menu gets called, it's basically running through a billion times, adding each one of these elements. Then it has to loop through each one, so it's going to get increasingly ridiculous, basically. So that's bad. That is not good. So what we need to do is, in Update Visuals, check if this is the first run. No. Nope, 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 nope. Oops, nope, don't want to do that. So let's put this in another function here. Let's put setup main menu options. And like I said, we're basically writing a system here, so it's going to be a lot of functions. There's going to be a lot of options. Now what we need to add is in startup, we need to set up menu options. Right? That was the function. Set up main menu options. Okay. Now, what I might have to do... Let's find out if this works here. It might be stuck... No, okay, it's good. I was going to say it might be stuck to where the whole thing is overlapping. Oop. Okay, that's still behaving weird. I don't know why it's adding just a ton of these. Oh, I know. I know. Okay, okay. We have a new plan here. Here's what we're gonna do. Can I undo any of this? No. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut this back out. Gosh, why is it running so slow? I hate that. Alright, turn the timer block back off. I've gotta fix this. This is what happens when you're running into, like, different various global and whether they should be local or global, etc. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set a new variable that we're going to declare here in a second to set total options, and we're going to say total main menu options equals menu options.count. Okay, and let's shorten this actually. So let's do total main options. Let's try that. Now we're going to remove this line up here because there's no longer a function called that. And up here we're going to take this out and instead make an integer that's set to this. Now we need to go back over to this part and change it to total amount of options. This way we can still use and access the amount of options, but we're not what are you talking about? What is it talking about? What's the earliest line? 119. Oh, I didn't declare it. Gotcha. String menu options equals new list string. There we go. Now work. Good. Alright. So now we can turn the timer back on. Trigger it. Okay, good. Now, you'll notice it's got the little brackets over it. I'm going to go into spectator mode here for a minute so that you can see both the screen and what's going on. So I have this is supposed to be up, down, select, and back. So basically, the one problem is up and down don't seem to work correctly, or want to, at least. Oh, well that's not good. It's not even turning the light off now. Alright, we broke something. What is it talking about now? I hate it when it gives an error like this that says index is out of range, but it does not give a line number or something to tell you what index is out of range. It's very, very, very annoying. Selected menu item is equal to 0. So what index is it talking about? This all was kind of working before I started trying to do more variable types like this, and now it just doesn't seem to want to work at all. It might have to do with order of operations. So I've got setup controls here, update selection, and then update displays. But update displays calls this, which adds... Gotcha. Alright, so we need to move this, then. I think that should fix it, maybe. Because now it'll actually have called something. Yes. Okay, cool. So that was the problem. It didn't have a value. So the problem here, and you can see the lights, but you can see the problem, is up is going... And now it's not doing anything, of course. Because it's out of index or something. Okay, what is the problem here? I've got something backwards. I guess I didn't need this here, really. Okay, so we've got to find... If selected menu item is greater than 0, then we decrement it. If selected menu item is equal to 0, selected menu item equals total menu options. Even if that's 0, it should just 0 out then. And then turn the light off. So I don't understand where the index problem is coming into play. But for now, what we're going to do is we'll just say 2. Because it's being dumb. I'll have to work on that as far as find the logic hole there. So if selected menu item equals 2, make it 0. If selected menu item is less than 2, increment it. We'll just do it that way. Let's see if it'll stop being a baby. Okay. Alright, so now it's working. But you might have noticed the problem. And that is, I'm hitting the up button and everything's going down. And I'm hitting the down button and everything goes back up. I don't know why it's doing this, because logically speaking, this makes no sense. Because we've got it set up to where if up is working, so if the up light is on, if selected menu item is greater than 0, then it goes down. So if it was 1, it should go to 0. And if it's equal to 0, then it should go to 2. And vice versa. If it's less than 2, it should add, so if it's 1, it should go to 2. If it's 2, it should go to 0. That's how this is supposed to work. But for some reason it's not, and I've even checked to see if maybe down and up are actually flipped in the code. Nope, they're not. They have the right values, they have the right lights, everything's working fine, but I'm betting if I switch these two, it'll work the way it's supposed to, and I don't understand why at all. Mathematically, this makes 0 sense, but we're gonna try it. So if this works, I should hit down now and it'll go to refinery status. Or it's just going to freak out. Because that's another option. What is going on? Okay. Now it's at refinery status. What? Oh, I know. I know what happened. I didn't change the light code. So the numbers were there, but the lights weren't turning off properly. It's all those little things that trip you up when you're programming. Alright, so it should now go down. Down. Back up to the top. So, why this makes sense, I honestly have no idea. It kind of looks a little derpy, actually. Like, sometimes it pops up to the... No, I guess it's working. And then, can I hit the upper one from here? So why flipping them works, I have no idea. I really don't know. Mathematically, that doesn't make any sense at all. But you can see how this is kind of starting to work now. That now we have, say I want refinery status, and then I hit select. And then I hit back. Now these are the two I haven't really tried yet. So there's nothing in the public text here, which is what it's supposed to do. So let's try to test... let's write public text. Oops. Now, the only problem with this is this line right here is going to overwrite it, and we currently have controls being called before display, so that's not really going to do anything. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. Actually, well, I'm not really sure how to get those to work, to be honest, right at the moment. I think it's working, but I don't think this is properly set up to actually change the private text field, so it's not really doing anything. I could be wrong. These might not be working or functioning correctly. I have no idea why we had to flip these either, so, you know, who knows. But it's getting there. it's kind of working. We have an actual functioning menu system. It just doesn't actually do anything or display anything yet. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. I don't think we have enough time to do any more at the moment, so I'm going to wrap things up here. Let me know what you guys think, suggestions, comments, whatever. And in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.